Henry Fuseli, born as Johann Heinrich Fuseli in Zurich in 1741, was one of the most enigmatic and visionary figures of European pre-Romanticism. Initially trained as a theologian and humanist, he discovered that his true vocation was painting. His work not only challenged the limits of aesthetics, but also anticipated the realms of psychology and the unconscious long before psychoanalysis existed. In 1781, while London society was torn between Enlightenment rationalism and the emerging shadows of the Gothic, Fuseli created a painting that condensed fear, desire, and fascination with the occult into a single scene: the nightmare, known in Spanish as La Pesadilla. This work not only marked a turning point in his career, but forever redefined the representation of dreams, the mind, and repressed eroticism in the history of art. The nightmare is, in essence, a vision suspended between the physical and the spiritual. The scene shows the body of a woman lying on a bed, her neck bent backward, her arms hanging loosely, and her face immersed in an ambiguous trance between pleasure and panic. Upon her chest sits an incubus, a demon with a simian face and earthy skin, pressing down on her with a presence as heavy as it is invisible. Behind the curtain, a horse with white, pupilless eyes pokes its head through, frozen in a blank, terrifying stare. Every element functions as symbol and metaphor. The female body is the sleeping consciousness, the demon embodies repressed impulses, and the horse, the animal of the dream, crosses the frontier of the rational world. The composition is bathed in a theatrical chiaroscuro, reminiscent of Caravaggio, yet with an unprecedented psychological intensity. The light illuminates the woman's body and submerges the demon in a dense penumbra, turning the painting into a boundary between wakefulness and delirium. Fuseli built this painting from his personal obsessions and his vast knowledge of European folklore. In the Germanic villages, people spoke of the Mara, a spirit that sat upon the chest of sleepers and provoked nocturnal terrors. From that word derives nightmare, which originally did not mean bad night, but nightmare. Fuseli translated that ancient belief into a modern image. The horse emerging from the red curtain is a literal materialization of the myth, and at the same time, a visual irony about the double meaning of the title. With a play of words and symbols, the painter turned a rural myth into a universal allegory of inner fear. The public's reaction was immediate and scandalous. In 1782, when the painting was exhibited at the Royal Academy of London, thousands of spectators came to see it, horrified and fascinated alike. Critics did not know how to classify it. It represented neither a biblical episode, nor a mythological scene, nor an aristocratic portrait. It was something unprecedented, an image purely imagined, seeking not to moralize but to provoke. Some labeled it indecent, others sublime. Within months it became a cultural phenomenon. The engraver Thomas Burke reproduced the work in prints that circulated throughout Europe, and caricaturists like Rowlandson and Cruikshank parodied it, replacing the sleeping woman with politicians, actresses, or ladies of high society. The painting became viral in the 18th century sense, a symbol of what should not be shown, but which everyone wanted to see. Over the years, Fuseli produced several versions of the painting. In the best-known one now held at the Detroit Institute of Arts, one can appreciate the balance between sensuality and horror that defines his style. Another version from 1791 is kept at the Goethe Museum in Frankfurt, where the painter altered the position of the woman and the gaze of the demon, creating an even more disturbing atmosphere. On the reverse of the original painting, technical studies discovered an unfinished portrait of a young woman whom many historians identify as Anna Landolt, the woman Fuseli loved and whose rejection marked his life. According to some interpretations, the artist projected in the nightmare his repressed desire for her. The sleeper would be Anna, and the incubus himself, consumed by impossible love. If true, the work would not only be a visual experiment, but also an intimate confession disguised as myth. The painting speaks not only of external demons, but of internal ones. The horse's pupil-less eyes represent the blank gaze of the unconscious, a gaze that does not see, that watches without understanding. The incubus, half beast and half man, is the archetype of repressed desire, of what sits upon the soul when the body yields to sleep. The flask on the table could contain a sedative or poison, while the mirror and books hint at the duplicity between knowledge and obsession. Everything in the composition points to the territory of the threshold, the edge of the bed, the border of the canvas, the line between light and shadow, reason and delirium. The woman, suspended in the abyss of sleep, seems at once victim and accomplice of her own nightmare. From a technical point of view, the nightmare is a display of Fuseli's virtuosity with chiaroscuro and anatomy. His brushstroke is tense, almost sculptural. His contours seek not softness but drama. The color palette is dominated by dark reds, ochres, and whites, contrasting with the blackness of the background. The scene seems illuminated by an inner light, as if the nightmare itself emitted its own glow. This theatricality anticipates romanticism and foreshadows the expressive visions of Delacroix and Goya. But the true impact of the nightmare was conceptual. Until then, Western art had avoided representing dreams except in religious or allegorical contexts. Fuseli broke that taboo by showing the dream as a psychological and erotic phenomenon, a territory where desire and fear intertwine. In fact, many critics saw in the painting a veiled representation of the female orgasm, something unthinkable for Victorian morality. The arched body, the parted lips, and the lax hands were interpreted as signs of pleasure rather than terror. Thus, the work stood on the border between the mystical and the sexual, defying censorship without a single explicit word. Throughout the 19th century, the nightmare was reinterpreted again and again. In the height of the Romantic era, it was seen as a hymn to the power of imagination. Later, physicians associated it with sleep paralysis, that condition in which the body remains frozen while the mind is awake, generating hallucinations. By the end of the 19th century, the rise of psychoanalysis turned it into an emblem of the unconscious. It is known that Sigmund Freud kept a print of the painting in his Vienna apartment, fascinated by how it visualized the oppression of sleep. For him, the incubus was the materialization of repressed impulses, and the horse, the symbol of unbridled desire. In this way, Fuseli, without intending to, anticipated by more than a century the iconography of the Freudian unconscious. In material history terms, the original painting belonged to private collectors until its entry into the Detroit Museum, where it is now exhibited as one of the jewels of its collection. Conservation studies have revealed thin layers of oil, superimposed varnishes, and a meticulously traced underdrawing. Infrared reflectography analyses confirmed corrections in the position of the demon and the horse, proving that Fuseli experimented until achieving the perfect balance between the visible and the implied. On the reverse, the hidden portrait reinforces the biographical reading, turning the painting into a double self-portrait, the visible one of the artist in his delirium, and the invisible one of the man in love. As centuries passed, the nightmare became a reference point for Western visual culture. It inspired engravings, caricatures, poems, and theatrical scenes. In the 19th century, it was cited in Gothic novels and mentioned in the literary circles of Mary Shelley and Percy Bysshe Shelley. Indeed, many scholars believe that the image of the monster haunting its creator in Frankenstein originated from this painting. Fear made flesh, the dream turned into matter. In the 20th century, the image was reinterpreted from feminist and psychological perspectives. For some, it represents the oppression of the female body in a patriarchal society. For others, the liberation of repressed desire finally manifested without censorship. Every era has seen its own reflection in the nightmare. In the 18th century, it was a spectacle of horror and morbidity. In the 19th, an allegory of romanticism. In the 20th, a metaphor of the unconscious. And in the 21st, a symbol of the dialogue between art and the science of sleep. The painting reminds us that fear does not belong to the past, but to the very structure of the human soul. What Fuseli painted was not an external demon, but the image of a soul oppressed by its own ghosts. Today, the nightmare remains one of the most reproduced and studied works of modern art. Its strength lies in offering no answers, only questions what is real, who dreams of whom, is the demon a threat or a desire? Each gaze reinterprets it. Observed closely, one feels the incubus staring mockingly, as if he knew that the true nightmare does not occur on the canvas, but within the viewer. The genius of Fuseli was to make the invisible visible. He turned dream into painting, desire into form, fear into beauty. In a time dominated by enlightened reason, he dared to paint the trembling of the soul. And although his world was ruled by morality and science, he reminded us that beneath the surface of order beats an abyss of shadows. The nightmare is ultimately both a warning and a confession. We all carry a demon on our chest, and sometimes when we sleep, that demon breathes through us. In the silence of the gallery, the nightmare still breathes as if every brushstroke had its own pulse. The visitor who approaches feels an invisible tension, a kind of magnetism pulling him toward the abyss of the image. The first thing that strikes one is the vulnerability of the woman. Her body, white as wax, seems to float between life and death, between sleep and consciousness. She is the very embodiment of surrender, a figure who gives herself completely to forces she cannot control. Yet that surrender is not passive. Fuseli plays with ambiguity. The woman does not merely suffer, she also seems to participate in the mystery, as if the dream offered her something that reality denies. That ambiguity, between fear and surrender, between pain and desire, is the magnetic core that turns the painting into an emotional experience more than a visual one. The incubus, seated on her chest, watches with the calm of a predator that has already conquered. His gesture is not violent but almost inquisitive, as if studying his victim or perhaps contemplating the fruit of his own creation. Fuseli endows this demon with ambiguous traits. His face bears something human, yet his proportions recall those of an animal, a crouched monkey or cat. His eyes are deep and opaque, a matter without shine that absorbs light. In them the spectator sees reflected more than malice. He sees his own shadow. It is as if Fuseli were telling us that the true monster does not come from outside but from within the mind. The horse, with its spectral eruption from the background, amplifies the atmosphere of unreality. It belongs neither to the room nor to the dream, but to the threshold between them. Its blank stare, its dilated nostrils, and its tense neck evoke a neigh suspended in time. It has no visible body, only head and neck, as if emerging from a parallel dimension. In Germanic tradition, nightmares were spirits that rode upon sleepers, and Fuseli transforms that superstition into a pictorial symbol. The horse is not there to attack, but to announce that the dream world has taken control. Reality has been invaded by sleep. What is fascinating about this work is that it does not show the nightmare itself, but the exact frontier where it begins. There is no visible violence, no blood, no screams. Everything happens in the mind of the viewer. The terror comes from silence, from the contrast between apparent rest and latent tension. It is an intellectual fear, a panic nourished by mystery and by what is left unsaid. In this sense, Fuseli achieves what few painters before him had done. He transforms the dream into an aesthetic experience without relying on narrative. His nightmare does not tell, it suggests. It does not describe horror, it awakens it. With time, the nightmare acquired a cultural meaning that transcends art itself. At the dawn of the 19th century, when Romanticism began to challenge the coldness of the Enlightenment, Fuseli was seen as a precursor of the tormented soul that would later define artists such as Delacroix, Blake, or Goya. His demons were not religious figures, but psychological states. Instead of representing hell, he represented the human interior, a subjective hell where desire and fear merge. Romanticism recognized in him a prophet of the dark sublime, that emotion in which beauty and dread mingle until they become indistinguishable. The symbolism of the painting is not exhausted by mythology or psychology. There is in it a profound reflection on body and mind. The woman lies in a posture suggesting loss of control but also liberation. In the context of the 18th century, a female figure abandoned to sleep evoked a taboo, the possibility that pleasure and danger could coexist in the same instant. Fuseli does not fear showing the naked body of the feminine soul. but he does so with the dignity of one who knows that eroticism is not vulgarity but the language of the unconscious. His audacity did not lie in painting flesh, but in painting desire. That boldness cost him criticism and rumor. Some accused Fuseli of blasphemy. Others insinuated that the painting was an indecent personal fantasy. It was said that the sleeper was a real woman, that the painter had portrayed his amorous obsession with Anna Landolt, and that the incubus was his self-portrait in demonic form. Although none of this can be proven, the hypothesis adds a poetic dimension. The nightmare would then be the confession of an artist trapped between faith and passion, between moral duty and carnal impulse. During the 19th century, the nightmare was reinterpreted in light of new medical discoveries about sleep. The physicians of the time described sleep paralysis as a phenomenon in which the body remains immobile while the mind stays active, generating terrifying visions. The clinical descriptions matched Fuseli's painting, point for point: the weight on the chest, the sensation of an alien presence, the terror without movement. Thus the work was recognized not only as art, but as scientific observation ahead of its time. Fuseli had painted with precision what centuries later neurology would explain. In the 20th century, the Freudian reading transformed the painting into a document of the unconscious. Freud saw in the incubus the representation of repressed sexual drives, and in the sleeping woman the symbol of the vulnerable self. The horse, with its violent eruption, would be the manifestation of uncontainable desire. The nightmare, from this perspective, was neither punishment nor divine warning, but the coded language of human longing. Through this interpretation, Fuseli's work became a cornerstone of psychoanalytic iconography. Freud himself hung a reproduction in his Vienna apartment as a reminder that art sometimes precedes science in exploring the soul. Nevertheless, reducing the nightmare to the field of psychology would be unfair. Its power lies in its ambiguity, in its capacity to be at once scientific, poetic, religious, and erotic. It is a painting that changes according to who observes it. For some, it is the embodiment of terror. For others, a metaphor for creativity, the artist crushed by his own visions. It has also been seen as a commentary on the feminine condition in an era that repressed women's desire and autonomy. The woman, oppressed by the demon, represents social oppression, yet her gesture, between ecstasy and surrender, hints at an inner strength that even the nightmare cannot subdue. Modern restorations have returned to the work its original intensity. The layers of varnish that for centuries darkened the tones were carefully removed, revealing a deeper red in the curtains and an almost spectral whiteness in the woman's skin. Technical studies showed that Fuseli used extremely thin layers of paint, creating an inner luminosity that seems to emanate from the canvas itself. The discovery of the portrait on the reverse added a tragic note to the painting's story. Beneath the surface of horror beats the story of a frustrated love. Today, when the viewer stands before the nightmare, he does not see an ancient myth but a mirror of his own mind. Each person recognizes in that scene his own shadows, anxiety, oppression, desires unconfessed. The demon that perches on the sleeper's chest no longer belongs to the 18th century, but to the interior of each of us. Fuseli achieved what very few artists ever have. He painted something that everyone has felt yet almost no one dares to face. His legacy echoes through the centuries like a dark resonance. He inspired symbolist painters, romantic writers, and filmmakers of psychological horror. Modern cinema, from Hitchcock to David Lynch, bears the mark of the nightmare in its visual language: the motionless figure, the invisible threat, the mixture of eroticism and fear. Fuseli's painting does not age because it belongs to the realm of dream, and dream has no era. Beyond its artistic value, the nightmare is a meditation on the human condition. It speaks of the mind's power to create monsters, of the body's fragility before the invisible, and of the thin line separating desire from fear. It is also a warning: everything we repress in wakefulness returns at night to reclaim its space. In that sense, the work is a metaphor for life itself, a precarious balance between light and shadow. And perhaps that is the reason for its enduring power, because every spectator, while contemplating it, relives his own interrupted dream. In the stillness of the room, the demon seems to move slightly, the curtain stirs, the horse's eyes observe us. And for an instant, we all understand that the boundary between art and nightmare is as thin as that which separates dream from reality. Fuseli, the painter who wished to turn the soul into canvas, succeeded. His demon remains alive, breathing every time someone dares to look too closely.